What if the secret to a successful future lies in where you choose to focus today? In this episode, we delve into a powerful lesson from the life of Jackie Joyner-Kersee, one of the greatest athletes of all time. And I'm not just talking about female, I truly mean greatest athletes of all time, who turn challenges into triumphs through the art of preparation. Welcome to the Knowledge Gumbo Podcast, where we mix together timeless wisdom and thought-provoking stories using quotes, sayings, proverbs, and book passages, primarily by Black women. I am your curious-minded host, Alicia Thomas. Let's get into today's quote. It is better to look ahead and prepare than to look back and regret. Jackie Joyner-Kersee. Jackie Joyner-Kersee is a native of East St. Louis. And as I said, she's been called the greatest athlete ever, but Sports Illustrated gave her the title of the greatest female athlete of the 20th century. Ponder that. When I hear this quote, the thing that comes to mind first and foremost is the thought of or the illustration that I've heard multiple pastors and multiple motivational speakers use, referring to there's a reason why in your car, the windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror, meaning it's more important to have vision and line of sight for where you're going versus where you've already been. That's why your windshield is bigger. You need to be able to see in all sides, in all angles, going forward, where you're going, what you need to avoid, what you need to swerve around. You need to understand what's coming. And that is more important and a bigger deal than what is behind you. But you have a rear view for a purpose, because you can't forget those lessons that were behind you. And every now and then, you have to make sure that something that you've gotten past, something that you've gotten over, something that you believe you've conquered doesn't try to sneak back up on you and catch you unawares. And you also have to look at, when you look in the rearview mirror, it talks about, the object maybe closer than they appear. You have to know where, if you're swerving left or right or doing something that's going to affect either someone that's coming alongside of you, or are you allowing things that, like I said previously, you thought you've conquered, you thought you've overcome, and you got a little cocky, and that can be creeping right back up on you again because you lost sight of what was in the windshield and where you were going, and you were focusing on where you had been, or you were tooting your horn, so to speak, to continue the analogy. You were tooting your own horn so much that you didn't realize you weren't going anywhere. You weren't putting the key in ignition. You weren't truly driving and going forward. You were staying stuck or staying idle and just celebrating where you were, over celebrating. You know those people where the greatest things in their lives happened either in high school or in college. And every time you talk to them, all their stories are filled with things that they did, said, and accomplished. And it stays nestled in that time capsule. They're not going forward. They're not getting better. They're not being more. They're not helping more people. It's not just about them. There are people out in this world that have a U-shaped size hole, and they're waiting on you to evolve so that you can bless them. And in your blessing them, they become more and are allowed to bless other people. But when I hear that quote, that is the first thing that came to mind, the windshield versus the rearview mirror. And we have to balance looking ahead with being present. But you have to know, if I have a certain number of goals, if I want to be this kind of person, then I have to first acknowledge that I'm not that person right now. I have to work myself backwards from where I want to be to where I am and say, what do I have to learn? What do I have to change? What do I have to let go of? Because what got you here won't get you there. So there's some things you have to let go of in order to get to where you want to go, whether it has to do with goals or whether it just has to do with developing your character. So there's a balance between where I'm going and where I am right now, because you don't want to be so future focused that you don't enjoy the journey, that you don't appreciate where you are right now, how far you've come. Hence that rearview mirror helps you get perspective on how far you've come, the things that you've learned, the the obstacles that you've conquered, the people that you've helped, the people that you love and are in your life right now, the people that you've let go. All of that helps you take value in the present. But knowing that I still have a ways to go, what little things can I do that adds value to my life today, but that are building blocks towards the future that I want to have? And Jackie's life was a whole testament to this. I'm a big Jackie Joyner-Kersee fan because her prominence came along during the time I was in high school and in college. And I was a big fan because I was in track and field as well. And I couldn't imagine doing the heptathlon. For those of you who don't know, she did heptathlon, which is 7 events. And she was also did long jump as well. And she was diagnosed with severe asthma. And this required her to have high levels of preparation for her bigger meets, because there were times until she was able to properly plan forward that it affected her during some of her meets and she had to pull out. So she had to create preparation and discipline within her training, as well as in how she led up to the major events like world championships, like Olympic Games, in order to perform to her optimal level without setting off anything in her condition. Because the asthma was real and you saw it in certain meets and stuff. Because I was always watching whenever I could, whenever they would show things in the summer on track and field. You saw certain cases where it affected her until she got to a point where she was really able to dial in and become disciplined and hit these events at her peak. Most track athletes do that. They time everything to hit their peak at the world championships, hit their peak at the Olympics. But she had to add on top of that dealing with her asthma. If you look at her life in general, she came from a very poor neighborhood in East St. Louis, and she was inspired and found inspiration. That's the word I'm looking for. Inspiration from her grandmother, Mary Joyner, who helped her look forward and encouraged her to pursue her dreams in athletics. Because if you think about it, in that time frame and before, women's athletics weren't that great and programs were closing down because they didn't want to support young girls doing athletics. But she was able to find her dream, and that led her to being able to have a scholarship because she was a multi-sport athlete. As well as track and field, she played basketball, and she ended up playing for UCLA. So multi-talented, she had to balance all of this out in order to find pockets of where she could be great. And so in order to do that, she had to keep looking forward. She couldn't worry about what had happened. You take the lesson from what happened and you keep it moving. You can't dwell on it. You can't, you do your little, what I like to say, 5 to 10 minutes of crying, wipe your face, and then you go, okay, where was I great in this? Where was I bad in this? What's the lesson? Let's redo this again, knowing what I learned, knowing what I got right, knowing what I got wrong, and doing this again. It's okay to be sad, but you can't live there. It's okay to be hurt, but you can't live there. It's okay for a quick second to kind of get down on yourself, especially when you make the same mistake twice. But again, you can't stay there. You have to look forward. You have to adjust your plans and make sure that you're going in the direction that you want to go, being the person that you want to be, accomplishing the things that you want to accomplish. Let's look at a challenge for this week. Based on your goals, what one thing has to change today to become that person or accomplish that goal in the future? Just one. Think of one thing. I know for me, I want to become a better writer, not only because I'm writing things on my Substack, but I am an avid reader. And I know what I like and I know what I don't like. And people have always been telling me, you should write something, based on feedback I've given and questions I've asked. And I will always say, no, 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 no. I'm a reader, not a writer. But I wanted to challenge myself to become a better writer because I do enjoy blogging, but I've never really done it consistently. And I wanted, with all these stories and quotes that I'm learning and sharing through the podcast and through the newsletter, I want to be a better writer for the newsletter, but also a better writer so that I can collect some of these stories, collect some of these quotes and sayings, and put it in a book form because a book will last long after I'm gone. Hopefully, this will help some, young Black girl understand that greatness lives within her, that she stands on the shoulders of greatness, even when your immediate family situation might not be what you would like it to be. Know that that's not the only tree in the forest that you come from, that there are others you can stand on their shoulders and be proud and look to them as a way to get to where you want to be. So for yourself, take that time out, figure out what that one thing is, and act on it today. Make a plan to what steps you have to take, what things you have to learn to get to that. And as I said, I'm a big Jackie fan, and even knowing that her athletic lifespan was going to be short, as opposed to her whole lifespan, she was looking ahead. And at the end of her career and post-career, she has become a philanthropist, a dynamic public speaker, and she has been a true diehard advocate for children's education, about children's health issues, about racial equality, social reform, and women's rights. So her life didn't end when her athletic prowess ended. And one little short fact is her heptathlon record, world record, still stands today. She set it back in 1988. So in a few years, we're coming up on another anniversary and no one has been able to top her record yet. Although we know records are meant to fall, no one has come close. So that lets you know how well her proper planning and preparation made for her to be, as they said, the greatest female athlete of the 20th century. Thank you for tuning into this week's podcast. Its podcast is recorded audio and visual by Ecamm. Ecamm helps you show up organized and structured for your meetings, for your podcasts, for your live streams. To find out more about Ecamm Live, click the link in the description below. Thank you for spending time in our gumbo kitchen. Please leave a positive 5-star review on your audio platforms like Apple and Spotify. Like and subscribe the podcast on YouTube. Remember, we're sharing our stories and our voices because they matter. You are always welcome here. Bring a friend because there's always room for one more at the table. The gumbo is hot and made with love. And we will see you next week.
Gather round, y'all. It's time to groove.